Hello everyone, Fanta here, you're watching FANTAVISION, and today we're going to be reviewing the Xbox Series X. Now I know it's only been out for a little more than a week, but I want to give my initial review on it, my initial impressions, and what I've experienced with it, between its problems, the things that I think are really cool, and the things that make this a different console launch than any other console launch that I can really think of, because this whole launch has been completely different from anything in the past in so many different ways. And in this review, we're going to just talk about the Xbox and then the PlayStation 5. We're going to talk about the oddities of that launch as well. But they definitely do have some similarities. However, the main thing that makes the launch of this system unique is the fact that this can play all of the previous generation games, whereas the Xbox One could only play a select list of 360 games, and it can also play that select list of 360 games, and it can play that select list of Xbox original games. Also, with this launch, unlike the last launch, there weren't any exclusives at launch. There were no games that you had to buy this system for to play. We're going to be talking about that later. Also with this system, it seems like Microsoft really encouraged developers to update their games instead of what happened last generation, where a lot of games got remade and re-released. So we're not seeing that as much this generation. We might not even see that at all, because they're going the route of the free upgrades. And again, this system, just like its looks, it's a lot more of a computer that can only play video games than it is a regular console. Before we dive into the system itself, let's just talk about the controller, because there isn't really a whole lot different about this controller as opposed to the last Xbox One controller. I actually got a controller right over here. Now I understand this is a bit older when it comes to the generations of controllers, but if we look at the differences of these two controllers, right away you can tell that the aesthetics are different. It no longer has the little dip right here. It doesn't have the plastic up here. But that's about it. I mean, it's got that share button. The D-pad on this is just a normal plus D-pad. They went back to the palette for some reason. I don't like the palette, but I don't really use a D-pad much anyway, so I haven't run into any issues with it. But it was interesting to see that they went back to something that most people didn't like. However, if you hear it, it is very clicky. And it's actually, no, it's about as clicky as the old one as well. So that's actually, I think because of that clickiness, they kind of get around what was the issue of the palette on the 360 controller, because it was kind of mushy, and a lot of people didn't like it, including me. The share button, I'm going to be honest, I have not used it. I completely forgot that that button was there. Like, I used it a couple times just to try it out, but in my normal gameplay, when I'm not thinking of, oh, I should be thinking of things to review, I don't touch that button because it doesn't need to be there. All of the things that you could do with this share button were already on this controller with different clicks of the Microsoft button. So nothing really added of value with that button. I wish they had instead put paddles on the back. But since we're talking about the back, they did put this nice little stippling in here in the plastic, so you really do get a sense of grip. And I like that a lot. PlayStation did that as well, and it feels so grippy. The triggers also have that same stippling effect up here, and they do actually in the bumpers as well. Another thing I like the feeling of these matte, grippy triggers more than the piano, not grippy triggers. I mean, they're the same size, everything else is the same. The shoulder buttons, they feel nice. The shoulder buttons on the old ones I know broke a lot. They feel a little cheaper. Yeah, this one's got a nice solid, whereas the other ones are a little bit clickety-clackety. Yeah, you can hear that this one is a bit more reinforced. It feels like it's going to take a lot more punishment. And I'll let you know in a couple months whether or not my friend breaks it, because he's gone through 5 or 6. Everything else about the controller is exactly the same. The A, B, X, Y buttons feel the same. The sticks feel exactly the same. Other than that, I mean, the weight, this weighs a little bit more. But beyond that, I like all the different things they did with the controller. At first, I didn't like the fact that this was just flat and it didn't have that divot anymore. It just kind of looks plain. But I've gotten over that. It's not that big of a deal. And overall, I do enjoy the experience with this controller more. But that being said, I mean, just starting with the controller itself, that's another reason why this launch doesn't really feel like a brand new console. That's the thing about the Series X. This did not feel like I was buying a brand new console. This felt like I was getting a computer upgrade. It felt like I was buying a graphics card, because when I buy a graphics card, there's no exclusive games for just that graphics card. I don't get a new controller or keyboard or mouse that feels completely different than the last one. And that's what normally a console is. A console is normally a completely new experience from the ground up. The systems usually look way different. Yeah, like it's a big box thing, but the last one was a box thing too. The controller is almost exactly the same. The UI and home menu for this system is exactly the same. It plays all the same games. So you might be wondering to yourself, why would you get this? Why would you get this system if it plays all the same games? The reason you get this is just like what I said. It's like when you're buying a graphics card. It is going to be upgrading the loading time of all of your games. A lot of these games got upgraded for free and now have higher fidelity graphics, higher frame rates, and that's all just included unless you're a couple of developers that are just, why? And just like all of the UI things and the fact that the controller didn't change, you can tell that Microsoft didn't spend all their time, money, and effort on designing a fancy new looking, like crazy looking console like PlayStation. Instead, they went with, oh, let's just take a simple design that looks nice. Honestly, I think it looks nice. And just put the most powerful things we can afford to put in here to keep it at a decent price tag. Because honestly, for what you get in this thing, I mean, $500, this thing is comparable to a lot of budget build PCs. You'd be hard pressed to build a PC at $500 that can play games as well as this does. Another thing about this system is it's not just the system that Microsoft is selling. They are selling the value proposition of Game Pass. And I talked about Game Pass like a billion times, and it seems like I'm somehow sponsored by Microsoft because it's the thing that sells this system. Game Pass is the cheapest way to play the most games out there. And it just really is a phenomenal value out there. PlayStation has recently said that they are going to come out with something that will compete with Game Pass. We don't know what. They're being pretty vague. And they did mention PS Now, but I don't know anybody that uses that. But they definitely do need to come up with something, because this, I mean, you can get Game Pass cheap all the time. Black Friday, you're getting 3 months for $22. And it has hundreds of games included in it. So you don't even have to buy a full-fledged game. If you got those 4 cards of 3 months, you get a year's worth of Game Pass. That would be about $88, okay? Give or take $88 a year for Game Pass Ultimate. You get 200 plus games. All of the companies that Microsoft owns, they're going to be putting the games on Game Pass day one. And you don't have to spend $60 per game. You just get them. That's amazing. That is... I don't know how they're making money exactly. I don't know how they factor in game sales when it comes to Game Pass, but they must be doing something right, or they're going to go the Netflix Hulu model and raise the prices later on. But if you buy a bunch up front, they can't really do that to you. And with secondary key markets and eBay and stuff like that, it's going to be hard for them to really raise the price. Even though Xbox Live Gold raised its price to $60, I never paid more than $40 because of the secondary market. And it's going to be the same thing with Game Pass for this system. So you're always going to be getting it very cheap, reliably, and then you won't have to buy any of the first-party titles for this system. I mean, that's crazy. Another reason why you might want to pick up one of these systems is because, like I said before, it plays all of your games just better. You're just upgrading your gaming enjoyment by playing these games at a higher frame rate, some with a higher fidelity, and faster loading times. Even if you're using them on a portable hard drive, they're still going to be faster than they were on your old system. And that's the thing. I mean, I have been using a portable hard drive for all of my Xbox One games on this system. And I've noticed that the loading times are still significantly faster than the old system. That being said, if you don't feel like your gaming experience needs an upgrade, you don't care about frame rate, you don't care about the upgraded resolution, loading times, all that, and you're completely fine with your Xbox One experience right now, there's really no reason to get a Series X right now. If you are perfectly fine with everything that's going on in your system, it may be aged, it may be running slow, but it's playing your games, and you've got no problem with that, then there's no reason to buy this. That's the thing that console launches usually do. They provide incentive for people to early adopt. But right now, there is nothing only on this system. Yeah, there are upgrades, like I said. There are games that are being made and tailored to those higher fidelity things, but you don't have to play them in higher fidelity, and you can ignore all those upgrades and still play the game. Now, from a customer value standpoint, Microsoft, they just kind of nailed it when it came to value and the fact that they're not screwing over the previous generation of console owners. This ancient Xbox controller, I can use this on the Series X. The fact that you can use all of your old Xbox One controllers with this system, that's huge. You can't do that with the PlayStation 5. Yeah, you can use PlayStation 4 controllers and PlayStation 4 games, but you can't use that PlayStation 4 controller on the new games coming out. You'd have to have multiple if you want to play multiplayer on a PlayStation 5 game. With this is going to be my couch co-op console of choice because I can use all my old controllers already. And that's amazing. Now, even though there's no requirement or real reason to upgrade if you don't need those resolution and frame rate upgrades and you're happy with your experience, there are some new features that maybe might sway you to getting this system. Quick Resume is actually really cool, and I don't know how it does this, but after I turned off my console, I didn't put it into power saving mode, I could somehow quick resume back into a game that I had not opened in forever. I don't know how many games it keeps running. I don't know how it keeps them in the quick resume. I must store it in their memory somehow. But I could quick resume between like 5 or 6 games, and it was just so quick. And you can quick resume between Xbox One, Xbox Series X enhanced games, and Xbox 360, and you can also quick resume to original Xbox games. So even though none of these games were built with that sort of feature in mind, they do it quite well. They do it perfectly, in fact. I never had an issue with that. And along with, the gimmicky thing of quick resume, you also get those upgraded graphics. You do get the upgraded resolution, and you do get that frame rate, which after playing it, wow. I have noticed so many frame dips on my Xbox One. You could tell it was an aging system. And this just brings new life to even older games. Everything just seems to run smoother, and there's not nearly as many hiccups, and you can feel the power. You really can on this new system. Now, I didn't have too many issues at launch with this system. I know some people were having different disk drive issues. I haven't had any. Some people were having different hardware issues. I wasn't having any of that either. I did have one issue, however, and it applies to games that need, or actually you can upgrade rather. They don't need it, but you can upgrade to the Series X resolution and stuff like that. If you have your Xbox One game installed on the external hard drive, it will install the upgrade onto your internal hard drive, and some of the games I played around with, that's bad. You don't do that. When I did it with Dirt, it only let me play the tutorial level, and I couldn't actually play the game. I had to uninstall it and reinstall all of it on the internal drive. With Forza Horizon 4, I had to, again, uninstall and reinstall all of it on the internal drive, because when I tried to launch the game, it went from the, loading, highlight screen showing the cars driving around. You hit the button to get into the game. When you hit the button to get into the game, it's just a black screen, and all I had was audio and no video. Both games worked perfectly after I uninstalled them completely and reinstalled them on the internal drive. But it's weird to me that it had that issue in the first place. You think it would know where to look for all the different files, especially because it automatically installed the upgrades to the internal and left the games where they were on the external. And it never gave me any warnings saying, hey, you need to do this or this is going to go haywire. And I also noticed when I tried to move the games to the internal, it still didn't fix the issue, at least for me. Maybe that's an isolated case, but I had to uninstall and delete all of it and reinstall it again. Thank God I have unlimited data now, because oh my God, that was a lot. But other than that, I've had no issues with the system at all. It is actually really quiet. I'm surprised. I think it's actually quieter than the PlayStation 5. So those are my thoughts on the Xbox Series X after owning it for a little over a week and playing different games on it that are, enhanced and the ones that are not. And, I think it's pretty great. If you are looking for a graphical enhancement to the games you already own, you want to play on the most powerful console, you want to experience better frame rates, better resolution, all that sort of thing, it's going to satisfy you. Especially if you've got a huge Xbox One collection already, you're going to be able to play all those games on it. But you don't really need to buy one now, that's the thing, because you can already play all the same games on your Xbox One. So that's a short-term drawback on this system, is that there's nothing really exciting about its launch. Yeah, you're playing the games better, they're playing at a better resolution, better frame rate, it all runs and feels better, but there's nothing only on this. And again, that's great for customers, but it makes it a little bit less exciting, a little bit less of the, oh wow, new shiny thing that is completely different from what I've already seen. When I boot this up, it looks exactly like my Xbox One because the UI is exactly the same. When I'm using the controller, it feels exactly like my Xbox One because the controller is basically the same. But again, that's only a short-term issue I have with the system. I think long-term, I can't wait to see what developers make for this thing because it is a beast. And I think we're going to see some crazy games in the future. So let me know what you guys think about the system down in the comments below. If you have one already, if you're planning to get it, what are your thoughts on it? Like the video if you guys liked it, subscribe for more content, and as always, have a fantastic day. See you, everybody.